All right, friends, Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom.
Good Shabbos.
Thank you. It's kind of overcast here in Huntington. It rained a little bit before, and it rained last night. I know because we have 5 dogs, and 5 went out last night, and 4 came in. And the one that did not come back in was the blind beagle, and he was outside for about an hour, apparently playing in the rain until I let him in. And he was soaking wet. He looked like the proverbial wet hen, and he was not happy. But so I know it rained last night, rained a little bit this morning, but it's still a great day because it's Shabbat. And regardless of the weather, it is a beautiful, beautiful day here. And it's just Shabbat. We have just come out of Pesach. We've just come out of one of the most important festivals in the tradition. There's actually only 3 that are considered major festivals. Pesach, Passover, Shavuot, 50 days after Pesach, and Sukkot at the end of the high holidays. Those are the Shalosh Regalim. Those are the 3 pilgrimage festivals in which it would be incumbent upon us, if there were a temple in Jerusalem, to go there and offer our sacrifices 3 times a year. But we are blessedly just on Shabbat right now. And let's start with a little bit of gratitude on page 68. Page 68. There we go. Thanking God for returning our soul. Modeh Ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam. Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam. Shehechezarta bi nishmati v'chem la rabba emunatecha. Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam. We'll turn to page 74 and continue warming up. Birkot HaShachar is a part of the Siddur. It's very individually oriented towards the individual. The brachot tend to deal with our basic human needs, and our thanks is basic as well. As we move closer to Shacharit and the Shema, the prayers change and become more community or Israel as a people based. But right now we're at Ma Tovu, top of page 74. Ma Tovu, Ma Tovu, Ma Tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkanotecha Yisrael, Mishkanotecha Yisrael, Va'ani berov chastecha, Ahavo ve'techa, Eheshtachaveh, El heichal kodshecha, B'yiratecha, El heichal kodshecha, B'yiratecha. Adonai ahavti mon beitecha, V'mekol mishkan kevodecha, Va'ani eshtachaveh, V'yecha, Evrecha lifnei Adonai osi, Va'ani tafilati, Lecha Adonai, Rahatzon, Elohim, Berov chastecha, Aneni be'emet, Ishecha. Page 76, one of my favorite brachot, one of my favorite pieces of rabbinic prayer. Asher Yatzar, thanking God for the beauty that is the human body. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher Yatzar et hadam b'chokhmah, uvarav vo nekavim, chalulim, galui v'yadu lifnei chisei chivodecha, she'im yapatech echad mehem, o yisatem echad mehem, Efshar lehitkayim v'la'amod lefanecha. Baruch atah Adonai, rofei chol basar, mafli la'asot. Turn with me to page 80. Birkot HaShachar proper, the morning blessings as they are known. The first one I absolutely adore. It's thanking God for giving the rooster the understanding to tell the difference between day and night. In other words, in true rabbinic irony, thanking God for alarm clocks. I'm going to have to talk to the rabbis about that someday. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan l'sechvi bina lahavchin bein yom uvein layla. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kifufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam roka haaretz halamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechin mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten laed koach. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hama'avir sheina me'inai numa me'afapai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'asani b'tzelem Elohim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'asani ben chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'asani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael b'gvorah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tifarah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asoch b'divrei Torah. Let's turn the page to 88, a piece out of the Gemara, out of the Talmud. Elu Devarim, these are the things she'ein lahem shiur, that have no limit. We can do them. Every time we do them, we get a mitzvah credit, as it were, right? And if you do it 1,000 times, it rings up 1,000 times. And these all have to deal with being part of a community, believe it or not. Right? We'll do it in English. Haven't done it in English in a long time. These are the things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study, morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people, but the study of Torah encompasses them all. It's interesting, we get kibud av ve'em here, the honor your father and your mother. There are only two places in the Torah where we are commanded to love. I know that's tough to command an emotion, but we are commanded to love God, obviously, right? In the V'ahavta, you shall love the Lord your God, and you're commanded to love your neighbor, which begs the question, what happens if your neighbor is a nudnik? But we're not commanded to love our parents, we're not commanded to love our spouses, we're not commanded to love our children. Only our God and our neighbor. Everybody else we respect. Kind of like that. I kind of like that. We respect everyone because they're all created Selam Elohim. We're all created in the image of God. All right, pages 90 and 92, Kaddish the Rabbanan, according to our friend Max. The hardest 2 pages to read in the Siddur. If you could read these 2 pages fluently, you got the rest of the Siddur, no problem. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmech rabbah v'almad yivrach hiruteh v'yamlik malchuteh v'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael v'agala v'zman kari v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mivarach le'olam u'lamei maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpahar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha b'richu le'elam in kol birchata b'shirata tushbachata b'nechamata Amiram ba'ama v'imru Amen. All Yisrael, v'al Rabbanan, v'al Talmidehon, v'al kol Talmidehon, v'al kol man daskin b'raita, di v'yatra hadain v'di v'chol atar v'atar. Yehei lahon olchon shlama rabba, china v'chista v'rachamin, v'chayin arichin, umzunei revichei, v'kranam mikadam v'hon d'bishmaya, v'ara v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim tovim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'bramav hu b'rachamav ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru Amen. All right, we are now moving on to page 94, moving out of Birkot HaShachar into Pesukei Dezimra, verses of psalm and praise. The blessings, the brachot, become a little bit longer and now start to focus on Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, and their relationship with the Creator. Top of page 94, Baruch Shamar. Baruch Shamar B'haya Holam, Baruch Hu, Baruch Oseh Bereshit, Baruch Omer V'Yoseh, Baruch Gozer Mekayim, Baruch Merachem Al Haaretz, Baruch Merachem Al Habriot, Baruch Mishalem Sachar Tov B'Re'ahav, Baruch Chai La'ad V'Kayab L'Netzach, Baruch Podeh Umatzil, Baruch Shemo. And in the English paragraph, 3 lines from the bottom. Let's read together. With songs of praise, we extol you and proclaim your sovereignty. For you are the source of life in the universe. One God, life of the universe, praised and glorious ruler. Your name is eternal. Blessed are you, Adonai, sovereign who is glorified through praise. Baruch atah Adonai, melech me'ulal b'tish bachot. Page 96, some verses from Psalm 92, the psalm designated for Shabbat. Mizmor shir liyom hashabbat, tov lehodot ladonai, uzamer l'shimcha elyon, lehagid baboker chastecha, ve'emunatecha baleilot. Alei Asur v'alei Navel, alei Higayon bechinor, alei Asur v'alei Navel, alei Higayon bechinor. Kisamachtani Adonai B'Kavod, Ma'od Amaku, Akshavatecha Ish Bar Lo Yida, Chisio Lo Yamin Et Zot. Tzadik katam har yifrach, Ke'erez balvanon yihiske, Shetulim beveit Adonai, Bechatzrot Eloheinu yahafrichu. O Jenuvun Veseva, Deshenim Vera'ananim, Yihiyu Lehagid, Ki Ashar Adonai, Tsuri Velo Avlatabo. All right, Ashrei, Psalm 145, with a little help from 3 of its friends, it becomes Ashrei. And let's read it in English. I haven't read it in English in a while, and let's read it responsibly, and you'll find that on page 99. 99. David's song of praise. I will extol you, my God and sovereign, and bless your name forever and ever.
Every day will I bless you and praise your name forever and ever.
Great is Adonai and much acclaimed. God's greatness cannot be fathomed.
One generation shall laud your works to another and declare your mighty acts.
The glorious majesty of your splendor and your wondrous acts will I recite.
They shall talk of the might of your awesome deeds, and I will recount your greatness.
They shall celebrate your abundant goodness and sing joyously of your beneficence.
Adonai is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger and abounding in kindness.
Adonai is good to all, and God's mercy is upon all God's works.
All your works shall praise you, Adonai, and your faithful ones shall bless you.
They shall talk of the majesty of your sovereignty and speak of your might.
To make God's mighty acts known among mortals and majestic glory of your sovereignty.
Your sovereignty is eternal. Your dominion is for all generations.
Adonai supports all who stumble and makes all who are bent stand straight.
The eyes of all look to you expectantly, and you give them their food when it's due.
You give it open-handed, feeding every creature to its heart's content.
Adonai is beneficent in all ways and faithful in all works.
Adonai is near to all who call upon God with sincerity.
God fulfills the wishes of those who fear God. Adonai hears their cry and delivers them.
Adonai watches all who love God, and all who wicked God will destroy.
My mouth shall utter praise to Adonai, and all creatures shall bless God's holy name forever and ever.
We will bless you, God, now and always. Alleluia.
Tilat Adonai yadaber pi, vivarecho basar shem kadsho li'olam va'ed, va'anachnu nevarech yah me'ata v'ad olam. Hallelujah. Page 100, picking up or continuing the theme of Hallelujah. Psalm 150, the final psalm in the book of Psalms. Hallelujah. Hallelujah el bekodsho. Hallelujah birkia uzo. Hallelujah bigvorotav. Hallelujah kerov gudlo. Hallelujah beteka shofar. Hallelujah benevel v'chinor. Hallelujah betofu machol. Hallelujah b'minim bugav. Hallelujah b'tziltzalei shama. Hallelujah b'tziltzalei trua. Kol haneshama tehallelia. Hallelujah. Kol haneshama tehallelia. Hallelujah. We're going to continue on page 101 and following. Mostly silent, but I'll let you know when I'm at the top of the page because my voice will get louder when I'm turning the page. And you could read the Hebrew if you like, or you could read the English translations as we continue with Nishmat. Nishmat kohochai tevarech et shimcha Adonai Eloheinu. Kol briot. I don't call to Ladot, I'm sure. Lo yanim lo yishan. V'chalabacha nachem odin. Ilufinu milei sherim kayam. L'shonenu bina kamon b'kalav. Sitatenu sheba. V'mechebe rakia. V'einenu mirod. Kashemes v'chariach. In an actimus speaking, no doubt, the Father, I hate it, I hate it, Motainu, Lagrehet Shemecha, Alachat, Me'alaf, Alaf, Alafim, Ribe, Ribabot, Palamaim, Hatabot, Shasita, Imavotena, Imotena, Imanu, Alkain, Evarim, Shabbata, Habanu, Baruva, in name you. כי חוטא לך, יודע, כל אשר לך. Time tomorrow, I be come on the bit. Parchinash yet Adonai, v'chol provide Shem Kodsho. Top of 104. Ha'el b'tatzumutu zecha, hagadol b'chavod shemecha, hagibor l'netzach v'hanora b'norotecha. Melech hayoshev al kisei ram b'nisaha, shochein ad maharom, v'kadosh shemo, v'katuv ranenu tzadikim b'Adonai l'sharim nava tehila, b'fi yesharim tithalal, uv'divrei tzadikim titbarach, v'vilshon chasidim titromam, uv'kerev kedoshim Tit Kadash, Uvmakalot, Revivot, Amcha Beit Yisrael, Bechina Yitpar Shimcha Malkeinu B'chol Dor V'Dor. Yishtabak Shimcha La'ad Malkeinu. Ha'el HaMelech HaGadol V'Kadosh B'Shamayim U'Aretz. Ki Lecha Adonai Eloheinu V'Elohei Avoteinu V'Imoteinu. Shir Hushbacha Halel V'Zimra Ozu Memshala Netzach Gedula Ugevura Tehila B'Tiferet Kedusha U'Malchut Brachot V'Hodaot Me'ata V'Ad Olam Baruch Atah Adonai El Melech Gadol B'Tishbachot El HaHodaot Adon HaNiflaot Abocher B'Shirei Zimra Melech Elchei HaOlamim. 106. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah V'yalmad Yivrach Hirutei V'yamlik Malchutei V'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael Bahagala u'bizman kariv V'yimeru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam v'lo me'almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal Shmei Tekudasha Barichu Le'la min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata Dahamiram ve'alma v'yimeru. Amen. We're moving out of Pesukei de Zimra. How do we know that? Because we just had a Kaddish. Kaddish marks the end of either a section of a service or a complete part of a service. And so we're moving from Pesukei de Zimra into Shacharit. Page 108. We'll continue with Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Kiddishanu b'mitzvotah V'tzivanu al mitzvot Kriyat Shema L'hamlicho b'levav shalem U'liachto b'lev tov U'lovdo b'nefesh chafetza U'lovdo b'nefesh chafetza. And in English, praise are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us how to recite the Shema, to declare wholeheartedly God's rule, to declare earnestly God is one, and to zealously worship God. Top of page 110. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, yotzer ur u'borei choshech, oseh shalom u'borei et hakol. Hameir la'aretz l'darim aleha barachamim, u'v'tuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid, ma'aseh v'reishit. Ma'rabu ma'asech Adonai, kulam b'chochma asita, ma'ala ha'aretz ki minecha. Yitbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, v'yal mi'orei ur sh'asita yifaru chasela, ur chadash al Tzion ta'ir, v'nizkechu lanu mehera li'oro. Baruch atah Adonai yotzei ha'me'orot. About page 112, the second bracha, the second blessing before Shema. Ava harabah haftanu Adonai Eloheinu chemla gedola v'tera chamalta aleinu. And together in English, how deeply you have loved us, Adonai our God, gracing us with surpassing compassion, on account of our forebears whose trust led you to teach them the laws of life. Be gracious to us, teaching us as well. O merciful one, have mercy on us by making us able to understand and discern, to heed, learn, and teach, and lovingly to observe, perform, and fulfill all that is in your Torah. V'ha'ereneinu b'toratecha, v'dahabek lebeinu b'mitzvotecha, v'yachei levabeinu li'ahava u'yira et shemecha, v'lo nevosh, v'lo nikalem, v'lo nikashel le'olam va'ed, ki v'shem kodshecha hagadol v'hanora v'hatachnu nagila v'nismecha b'shuatecha. V'havienu l'shalom me'arba kanfot ha'aretz, v'tolikenu k'mumiyut li'artzenu, ki el poel yeshuot ata, uvanu v'charta v'keraftanu l'shimcha hagadol sela v'emet, lehodot l'chal yehetcha b'ahava, baruch ata Adonai, habocher b'amo Yisrael, be'ahava. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'otecha, ve'hayu advarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha v'veitecha uvlektecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam le'od al yadecha v'hayu latotafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha. 118. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael, v'amarta aleihem, v'asu lahem tzitzit, al kanfei vigdehem ledorotam, v'natenu al tzitzit hakanaf v'til techeleth, v'haya lechem letzitzit uritem oto, uzchartem et kol mitzvot Adonai va'asitem otam, v'lo tatuhu acharei levavchem v'acharei einechem asher atem zonim achareihem, leman tizkeru va'atem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim le'elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem emet yatzivahu v'chaviv v'nora v'adir v'tov yafa hadavar hazeh aleinu le'olam va'ed emet Elohei olam malkeinu tzur Yaakov magen yishenu ledor v'ador hu kayam shmo kayam v'achiso nachon u'mechuto ve'emunato la'ad kayam hen u'divarav chayim ve'kayamim ne'amanim ve'nechamadim la'ad olamei olamim mitzrayim galtanu Adonai Eloheinu mibeit abadim peditanu Al zot shibchu ahuvim v'rumemu el v'natenu yedidim zmirot shirot v'tishbachot brachot v'hudaot lamelech el chai v'kayam ram v'nisa gadol v'nora mashpil ge'im u'makpia shefalim motzi asirim u'fodeh anavim v'ozer dalim v'oneh la'amo ba'ed shalom Tihilot le'el elyon baruchum vorach Moshe b'nei Yisachar shira b'simcha rabah v'yamru chulam mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh nohorati lot Osei fele Shira chadasha shibchu gebuli L'shimcha al sifatayam Yachad kulam hodu V'himlichu v'yamru Adonai yimloch li'olam va'ed Tzor Yisrael, Kuma Bezrat Yisrael, Uvtechenu Mecha, Yehuda v'Yisrael. Go Aleinu, Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch Atah Adonai, God Yisrael. We are at the Amidah, the central prayer of all of our services, and some maintain that this is probably the most important prayer in our tradition. It's said at every service, whether it's in the morning, the afternoon, or the evening. We're going to begin on 124, and then we'll chant together 126, 128, 130. Could you believe it? Even 130. And then we'll go silently. You can finish the prayer in Hebrew. You can finish it in the English translation, or you can offer up your own meditative prayer during that time. The only change, and this is going to be the change that stays with us until Shmini Atzeret at the end of the high holidays, is that instead of saying Mashiv Haruach Umorid Hagashem, we are now just Morid Hatal. Page 124, we'll begin. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor Anora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei HaKol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot, Umevi Goel Libnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, V'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye Metim Atarav L'Hoshia, Morid Hatahal, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye Metim Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofech Oholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Micha Mocha Baal Givorot, Umido Melach, Melech Meimit Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'chayot meitim, Baruch atah Adonai, מחיי המתים. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמעתי שמו טוב בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ, כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו, מה אדיר שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני במקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם. אלוהי ציון לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. בשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. Let's continue together on page 134 in the middle, and let's read together. Our God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest. Sanctify us with your mitzvot, and grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness, and gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Adonai our God, grant us your holy Shabbat as a heritage. May Israel, who sanctifies your name, rest on Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Well, we have the macadamias and we have the joyful almond, so I think we need a joyful or a wonderful ritzeh. We got that? All right. Top of page 136.
Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu, ve'amecha Yisrael, u'tefilata באהבה תקבל, ותהי לרצון תמיד עבודת ישראל. ישראל עמך, אל קרוב לך, גורע פני אל עבדיך בכוננו, שפוך רוחך עלינו, ותחזינה עינינו, ושוב לך לציון. ברחמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, המחזיר שכינתו לציון, לציון.
Page 139, a little bit of hoda'ah, a little bit of thanksgiving, which goes hand in hand with hakarat hatov, gratitude. And I got to tell you, this week, it's been a full week of things for me to be thankful. Today is my partner Steve's birthday. I'm not going to tell you how old he is, but if you take today's date and switch the numbers around, you might come up with his age. Once in a lifetime thing. I had a wild ramp yesterday. It was delicious. It was raw. Apparently, if they're cooked, they're even better. I had halva this morning. I'm telling you, it's just been a great, great week. You can never have too much halva in your life. If you don't know halva or if you don't like it, I'm sorry, I can have nothing to do with you. Because halva is proof, along with beer, that God loves us. Who would imagine? You can imagine what you could do with a sesame seed. I'm just going to sit here and think about halva right now. No, but lots to be grateful for this week. And so on page 139, we're going to start with Sarah over here on my right, and we're going to go counterclockwise on page 139.
For the expanding grandeur of creation, worlds known and unknown, galaxies beyond galaxies, filling us with awe and challenging our imaginations.
Modim anachnu lach.
For this fragile planet Earth, its times and tides, its sunsets and seasons.
Modim anachnu lach.
For the joy of human life, its wonders and surprises, its hopes and achievements.
Modim anachnu lach.
For human community, our common past and future hope, our oneness transcending all separation, our capacity to work for peace and justice in the midst of hostility and oppression.
Modim anachnu lach.
For high hopes and noble causes, for faith without fanaticism, for understanding of views not shared.
Modim anachnu lach.
For all who have labored and suffered for a fairer world, who have lived so that others might live in dignity and freedom.
Modim anachnu lach.
For human liberties and sacred rights, for opportunities to change and grow, to affirm and choose.
Modim anachnu lach. We pray that we may live not by our fears, but by our hopes, not by our words, but by our deeds. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, atov shimcha l'chana'el lehodot. We're going to close out, as always, the Amidah with a prayer for peace. In the morning, it is Sim Shalom. Sim Shalom, Tova Uvracha, Chen V'Chesed V'Rachamim, Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael Amecha, Barcheinu Yotzreinu Kulanu Kiechad Yor Panecha. Hivior panecha nahatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu Torat chaim v'ahavat chesed Utzdaka uvracha v'rachamim, v'rachamim v'chaim v'shalom, v'rachamim v'chaim v'shalom, v'tov be'einecha l'vaharech et amecha, Damecha Yisrael, B'chol עת ובכל שעה, בשלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני, המברך את עמו ישראל, בשלום. All right. Page 253, we're going to jump ahead. 253 for the Mishaberach, for those who need some extra healing, keep them in your thoughts and close to your heart. And then after Shabbat, reach out to them, right? Thoughts and prayers are nice, but it's deeds to get the world moving. And so we can recite the Mishaberach as much as we want, but we should also reach out to the people and let them know that we're thinking about them, or see if they need any help, you know? So top of page 253, Mishaberach. Mishaberach Avotenu v'Imotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah Hu Yivarech et HaCholim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Aleihem Lachalimam L'Rapotam Lachazikam V'Yishlach Lehem Mehera Refuah Shleim Amin HaShamayim Refuat HaNefesh Refuat HaGuf Hashta Bagala Bisman Karib and Omar. Amen. May the Holy One who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Becca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit. And let us say, Amen. Pages 258 and 259, prayers for our community. And Tovi, how about the prayer for our congregation?
Sure. Source of well-being, may the children of this community learn these passions from us. Love of Torah, devotion and prayer, support of the needy. May we guide with integrity, and may our leadership be in your service. May those who teach and nourish us be blessed with satisfaction, and may we appreciate their time and their devotion. I appreciate you, Rabbi. Bless us with the fruits of wisdom and understanding, and may our efforts bring fulfillment and joy.
Baruch atah Adonai, shotecha levacha b'yira na'avod. Sarah, how about the prayer for our country? Either the top two paragraphs or the bottom paragraph.
Thus says Adonai, this is what I desire, to unlock the fetters of wickedness and untie the cords of lawlessness, to let the oppressed go free, to break off every yoke. Share your bread with the hungry and take the wretched poor into your home. When you see the naked, give clothing and do not ignore your own kin. If you banish the yoke from your midst, the menacing hand, the evil speech, if you offer compassion to the hungry and satisfy the famished creature, then your light shall shine in the darkness.
Shalu Shalom Yerushalayim Yishlayu Ohavayich. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May those who love you prosper. Avinu Shabbat Shamayim Sur Yisrael V'Golo Barech et Medinat Yisrael Reshit Smichad Gulatenu Hagen Aleha B'Yavrat Chasdecha Ufros Aleha Sukat Shlomecha Ushlach Orcha V'Amitecha L'Rasheha Sareha V'Yotzeha V'Tatneim B'Etza Tova Milfanecha V'Natata Shalom Ba'aretz V'Simchat Olam Liyoshveha V'Nomar Amen. The Dr. Murphy, who is not Tovi, please, the prayer in English.
O Heavenly One, Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love. Spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen.
Amen. And we have an announcement on page 261. Page 261. Yehi ratzon milfanech Adonai Eloheinu b'Elokei avotenu v'imatenu shetechadesh aleinu et hachodesh haba l'tova u'livracha v'titein lanu chayim arukim chayim shel shalom chayim shel parnasa Chaim shetehe banu ahavat Torah v'yirat shamayim. Chaim shiyomalu mishalot libeinu latova. Amen. Rosh Chodesh Iyar Yihye b'yom shishi u'b'yom Shabbat Kodesh haba. Our God and God of our ancestors, may the new month bring us goodness and blessing. May we have long life, peace, and prosperity, a life exalted by love of Torah and reverence for the divine, a life in which the longings of our heart are fulfilled for good. The new month of Iyar will begin Thursday night and carry through Friday and Shabbat. Cantor Beth will be here for the beginning of Rosh Chodesh. So that would mean we'll have Hallel, and she does a good, great, wonderful, amazing, can't say enough, Hallel. All right, friends, Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos.
Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos.
Oh, I love when people are here. Otherwise, it's just the voices in my head. I got to tell you, this week's portion, not everybody's favorite, all right, because it lays out for us the laws of kashrut, the Jewish dietary laws, as they're known. These laws, I would venture next to the definition of a mamzer, are some of the most misunderstood laws and statements in our tradition. One of the reasons is that these laws are considered chukim. They're all different types of laws, and you can take all 613 mitzvot and put them in one or another category. And there are several categories. There's categories of mitzvot or commandments that deal between people and our relationship with God. And you could take all 613 of the mitzvot and put one in one of the other columns. The interesting thing is there will never be a mitzvah that is on the fence, neither one or the other, and there won't be one that's both, right? So, and there'll never be an even number on either side. And when it comes to things like the chukim, there's only a couple of chukim and a lot more of what we call mishpatim. These are the statutes. These are the laws that we understand. So you could have a ben adam lechavero between people and ben adam lemakom between us and God. There are the most basic one is ta'aseh and lo ta'aseh, right? The do's and the don'ts. So if it says lo in front of something, you don't do it. And if it doesn't say lo, you can do it. I mean, it's that easy. And then we have mishpatim and chukim. The chukim don't make rational sense to us. We could try to come up with reasons. And some of the reasons might hold water for these chukim. But basically what it comes down to is God said it, so do it. And kashrut is one of those chukim. Right? Now, lots of people will say, but Rabbi, it's all about health. Even Maimonides, my favorite rabbi of all time, Maimonides, he hinted and said, yeah, it's probably about health, but we're not 100% sure. And, people will say, but Rabbi, now we have refrigeration and, we can eat pork. It's tasty. And in the Middle East, it's hot and they didn't have in biblical times refrigeration. So we could eat pork now. It's not a good reason because I point you to Southeast Asia, which is often hotter and more humid than the Middle East. And yet they eat pork with abandon. Southeast Asia, when they're not being vegetarians, they're eating pork. But we don't know for sure. So we just call these laws the chukim, right? We just accept them for what they are. And we should, some say, God said it, end of story. Right? But that doesn't hold much water with me. Simply because if it's just something that God said that we have to do, then there's no lesson to be taught. God said do it, okay, I have to do it. Right? There's no discussion, there's no debate, there's no going back and forth. And most years, and this year included, we read this parsha right after Pesach, this particular piece. And we are moving out of our Pesach state of mind, right? We've been released from Mitzrayim. We've been released from our narrow place. We're taking those first steps towards freedom. And we're also moving towards Shavuot. And Shavuot is the holiday where the rabbis, not the Torah itself, but the rabbis say that's when we receive the Torah. And so we are moving. We are free people, and now we're going to receive the Torah. The 7 weeks leading up to Shavuot, these are the weeks where we count the Omer. These are weeks of preparation. Just as we prepared for Pesach with our cleaning, our external, our homes, and our internal cleaning to get rid of all the stuff that makes us puff up, we prepare for Shavuot. On Pesach, the creator of the universe took us out of Egypt, removed us from slavery, and took us and led us to freedom. On Shavuot, we accept the Torah and we become God's holy people. We commit ourselves to the mitzvot. We are free, but we willingly accept, as it's put, the yoke of the commandments, and we promise to abide by them. We realize that being free doesn't mean that we can do whatever we want, but rather it means we are free to be holy. And that unlike the slavery to Pharaoh and Egypt, which was forcibly imposed upon us, we accept the Torah as the guide for our lives willingly. So our post-Pesach return to the weekly parashah gives us laws for one of our most basic human activities. We get laws about food. And I think this is to teach us that the Torah will focus not only on lofty theological ideas, our relationship with the Creator, our relationship with the universe, but will also encompass our daily lives. Therefore, these laws of kashrut, are the first laws that we read coming out of Passover. And there's a refrain for these laws. In the book of Leviticus, the book of Vayikra, there's a refrain that says, "You shall be holy, for I am holy." This is God speaking to us. You shall be holy, and because I am holy. And we could talk about the word holy. It's not what you think it might mean. The word holy means to be set aside, that there's something different about you, and it can be used for one specific reason, right? Holy doesn't mean it's imbued with some sort of godliness that you can't touch it or look at it or anything like that. Being holy means that you are set aside. Gives us the word hekdesh, which was a term that if you were going to, say, go to Jerusalem for Sukkot, and you had a beautiful bull that you wanted to offer up at the temple, but you lived in Sfat, which is to the north and about 60 miles away. And in biblical times, it was not a good road to travel. And you didn't want to take the bull and risk getting it messed up, right? Having it fall and break its leg, or having it get a blemish, a cut, which would then make it invalid. You wouldn't be able to take it to the temple. You would set that bull aside. You would sell that bull and take that money, and that money was hekdesh. That money was holy, and it was set aside. You couldn't use it to buy anything else. You couldn't use it to buy a new guitar. You couldn't use it to buy, a first edition Hemingway or whatever. You had to set it aside and take it to Jerusalem. And so we are like that, right? God says, you are going to be hekdesh. You are set aside because I too am set aside. I am a unique God. There's nothing else like me, and I have a singular purpose in this world. The Torah repeats this phrase over and over. You shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. But it never really tells us, what does it mean to be holy? Following the mitzvot, yes, but what do we get from that? Now, we could spend a lot of time, like I just did, talking about the definition of being holy. But right now, the Torah is teaching us that holiness, this idea of being set aside or being like God, is manifested through our actions. We don't just sit around thinking right? How we behave is as important as what we believe. And this week, the Torah teaches us that holiness is found in the basic act of eating. Because eating is such an important act, and it's such a basic act, the Torah places great emphasis on it. Later rabbis will reflect on the idea that what we put into our mouths very much influences what comes out of them. Well, we can never be 100% righteous. We can never be perfect. When we are aware of what we are eating, we are more likely to be aware of how we speak. It's interesting to note that the dietary laws and a great many laws regulating our speech, vows, slander, misuse of words, are found in close proximity to each other in the book of Vayikra. One of the great Hasidic masters, one of my favorites, is Rabbi Levi Yitzhak of Berdichev, and he taught that the laws of kashrut pertain to spiritual health, right? He was one that tried to give us an actual reason for kashrut. And according to the Berdichever, the laws concerning forbidden and permitted foods have to do with what enters a person's mouth. If a person has no discipline regarding what goes in, it is likely that they will be careless with what comes out. And I've often mentioned that the book of Leviticus is not as exciting as some of the other books of our Torah. And although it might not be exciting, this week's parsha gives us a lot to chew on. I fully believe that it's no accident that we read this week's parsha right after Pesach. We know that during Pesach, we are careful with what we eat. And the Torah is now teaching us to take that attitude with us as we move out of Pesach towards Shavuot. And as we make that journey, we are developing a new relationship with God. Pesach removed the bonds of slavery. And now we are on the way to the land, the place that God had promised our ancestors. But before we get there, we have to learn what to do with our new freedom. We need the Torah, our guidebook that will teach us how to be holy and how to be God's people. We're preparing ourselves for a moment of great revelation. And at that moment, we will be given amazing laws and commandments that will help us to connect with God on a very deep level. But those laws come later. Right now, this week, we discover that holiness can be found in the everyday act of eating, something we take for granted. As Shavuot draws near, these actions will help prepare us to receive God's Torah. Beyond Shavuot, by paying attention to kashrut, as well as to the other mitzvot, we cultivate good habits. And when we make these habits part of our daily lives, we become fitting receptacles for the divine presence. And so it's my prayer that we may always seek to find holiness in our world and in our lives. May we be open to experiencing God's presence in all things and at all times. Shabbat Shalom and good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Any questions, any worries, comments about anything? I don't usually have a room full of people, so I just want to talk.
I like that this, when you're talking about hukim and kashrut, it's kind of like when you start to try to rationalize kashrut, that creates space to undermine it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're like, well, it's for health reasons, but we're in a different time and we've got refrigeration, so it doesn't apply. But it also undermines, like, there's this notion that animals that you can't eat are somehow less than, but instead they're like protected.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like pigs are awful. They're actually very special and don't eat them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the most convincing arguments that can be made for kashrut, again, we don't know. In biblical times, it was a tribal world. Your tribe, somebody else's tribe, right? For Bnei Yisrael versus the Canaanites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, all of the ites, right? Eat what your family raises. Our ancestors were shepherds and herdsmen. And they kept sheep, they kept cattle, they kept goats. That's what we eat. Over the hill, they raise something else, but we don't want to mess with them because they worship other gods. So in the moment we sit down to eat with them, we find out that they're human beings as well, and that we have a lot in common. So it might be that it was a way of distancing us from other cultures, other tribes. Again, that's speculation on my part, and there's no good reason to say, well, that's the reason, right? The laws of kashrut are chukim, right? From the very beginning, they have been chukim. And so the understanding is that these are important, and don't go tinkering with them, because then once you tinker with this, you pull that thread, then it's, well, that was a different time, and we don't have to do this, or we don't have to think about that, or whatever. The laws of kashrut are meant to keep us mindful of what we eat. Right? When I put my dog's food down, I don't notice them stopping to make a bracha. I don't notice them stopping to think, well, what's he feeding us? Is it kosher? Is it not kosher? Is it milchig, fleshig? What is it? Right? The animals don't. Right? You put it down and move your hand away really quickly, because depending on how hungry they are, right? Human beings are different. And that's what the Torah is lining out here. We are different. And part of being free and part of being God's people is there are things that are expected of us, and we might not understand it, we might not agree with it, but we have to give it serious consideration. Now, I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat meat, and so my life is by default kosher. But just because I don't eat meat doesn't mean that I just disregard these laws, right? There are deeper and more spiritual meanings found in there, right? The laws of kashrut, and I'm not a big fan of the industry that has become kashrut, right? Rabbis have a special phrase when referring to the rabbis that certify things as kosher or not, as the kosher nostra, right? Why one rabbi will say something is kosher and another rabbi will not, it's basically political and who pays the most money. And I have a problem with that, right? I also have a problem with the industrial farming that has taken over this country, right? The laws of kashrut in some ways were meant to keep that kind of thing from happening. Because now if you want to eat whatever you want and there's a huge demand for it, well, we don't care about the animals. Give me that hamburger. And I've talked to more than one or two young adults who have no idea that a McDonald's hamburger was not born that way, right? That the little patty that they're eating was attached to a live animal at one point, right? They think, oh no, it came this way. No. Right? And so, but what else? Anybody else? Doesn't have to be about kashrut. I'll answer anything, just about, except I won't tell you Steve's age.
Is Hakeem a little bit like because I said so?
100%.
Which is also like, it's not just don't think about it, kid. It's you don't understand everything in the world, and I do. So just trust me on this.
Yeah, I mean, this is one. I mean, there are only a handful of chukim in the Torah. The laws of kashrut. Some say that Shabbat is a chok, because there's no reason given. Although there are, right? Because God created for 6 days, right? But the idea is you can't come up with a really good reason why the seventh day, right? Why not the sixth day? Why not the fourth day? The other famous chok is the red heifer, right? Where you take this cow or this heifer, and it's completely red, cannot have any black hair, cannot have a mum, cannot have a blemish, it has to be perfect. You take this animal, you sacrifice it, you burn it, you take its ashes and mix them with water, And then for somebody who has come into contact with a dead body, with a corpse, which is the highest form of impurity for humans, you sprinkle the water on them, and that removes that impurity so that they can go to the mikvah, and when they come out of the mikvah, they are back to being ritually pure. You say, well, what's so confusing about that? Well, the one who's sprinkling the mixture, they become ritually impure. So in the process of helping somebody to become ritually pure, they themselves become ritually impure. You can spend the rest of your life trying to wrestle with that, and you will never come up with a good reason of how that works. Right? Because coming into contact with it makes you impure, but on somebody who's come into contact with a corpse, it begins the process of purifying them. I've been wrestling with this for over 40 years. I got nothing, except it's a chok, right? And it says, just do it, it works. And that's the nice thing, is that there are not a lot of chokim in the Torah, right? Most of the laws make sense. Don't murder. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, right? Don't steal. I got you there, right? Love your neighbor. Okay, makes sense if you want, peace and things like that. But the chukim, only a handful. And, I think that was by design, because if everything was a chok, there wouldn't be Jews. We would have said, the Torah's not, it doesn't make sense. Everything is because God said. There's got to be something rational behind that as well. Yes.
Sorry, this is just on a tangent of what you were talking about. But so now that we don't have a temple, so we don't have animal sacrifice, ritual impurity just means you can't do things at the temple, right?
Ritual impurity is something that we are all in a state of.
Which is always ritually impure.
Yes.
Right?
Even when we go to the mikvah, we still are ritually impure because we have come into contact with somebody who has come into contact with a corpse, and that passes on. Right? Now, a quick thing about ritual impurity. Impurity does not mean that you actually have something on your hands. There's nothing icky attached to you. This is a spiritual idea of there are certain things that are repulsive to God, and not because there's the ick factor, but a corpse is repulsive because it no longer has the animating piece of God in it. It's now it's a vessel. It's an empty soda can, right? We treat it with respect because, the person was our loved one or a friend or something like that, but it is no longer that person. And so the corpse represents that ultimate, it's not a desecration, but it's something that has fulfilled its purpose, but we cannot, hold on to it anymore. And so it gives off this, what's called tumah, this ritual impurity. And so when you come into contact with it, you have to get rid of it, or else you walk around in a state of ritual impurity. And if we had a temple, you wouldn't be able to do the sacrifices. And so the ritual of the red heifer. Nowadays, it's a non-issue. It's a non-issue, except there's a small group, thank God for now, a small group in Israel, whom I call the crazies. There's a group of people in Israel who are trying very, very hard to get the third temple jump-started. And what they have done is that they have gotten a group of people who are Kohanim, or of the priestly class, and taken their children and people, and they've never touched the ground. They walk on boards. They're secluded. It's almost like a monastic existence, because if you walk on the ground and you're a Kohen, you might be walking over a dead body, especially in the Middle East, right? I mean, because people are, the place has been settled for 4,000 years. There's somebody buried somewhere always. And a Kohen cannot become ritually impure that way, because then he wouldn't be able to do his job. And so they've taken these kids and are grooming them to take over the temple practices. And one of them is to make sure that they do not come into contact with tumat mate, the impurity of the dead. Yeah, they are the crazies. They are the crazies. And I can say that because I can. But yeah, the temple, I mean, we don't fulfill about a third of the mitzvot because we can't, right? And so it is just now an assumption that we live with this tumat mate, right? And if you're a doctor, I mean, or a nurse or a healthcare worker or something, right? You're always coming in contact. And so, yeah. But yeah, we don't have to worry about that. And hopefully we'll never have to worry about it, because if we go back to animal sacrifices, that's a huge step backwards. And if you think they hate us now, wait till they show Bossi the cow being sacrificed on Rosh Hashanah or Sukkot. Then they're going to like, oh my God. Because it's a bloody mess. I mean, it's.
And they'll talk about it over their hamburgers.
And they'll talk about all their hamburgers. Yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing. One of the things that I'm really angry about is how our Bible, the Jewish Bible, has been co-opted by people who use it to perpetrate violence on other people, often while sitting and having a shrimp cocktail, right? Like, oh no, we don't have to do the laws of kashrut. Jesus said, no, Jesus said nothing about kashrut, or very little. It was Paul. And last I checked, you are a Christian, not a Paulian. And so why would Paul? Well, no, Paul said it's all right that we don't keep kosher. Okay. But if you're not going to keep kosher, then you don't get to pick and choose the laws that you want to flagellate people with. Anything else? All right. I think I tired them out. You tired me out. Tired me out.
I just, one more thought.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was so close. I
Yeah,
was so close.
you seem disappointed.
I'm not.
Essen and Preston, that made me think of it when you were talking about your dogs eating.
Mm-hmm.
The people.
Yeah,
people
two German
eat
words.
Essen.
Yeah, my grandmother, my father's mother, used to say, "Friss nicht," right? Which means don't eat like an animal. That's fressen. And then humans do essen. We essen, but animals fressen. And if my grandmother told you "Friss nicht," it meant that your table manners were not up to her standards. And believe me, did I get yelled at a lot? Told not to friss nicht. But yeah, I mean, that's the idea. Is that, animals eat when they're hungry, what they want. I mean, if you have a dog, I mean, you could feed them filet mignon, and then they're going to go out in the backyard and, eat whatever they find on the ground out there, right? The garbage, whatever. I mean, but for us humans, eating as all things can be imbued with a sense of sacredness, right? Take a moment to think, and even if you don't want to believe, if you don't believe in a God the way, the vast majority of people believe, some old man sitting in heaven on a chair with a long beard and all of that, when you stop to make a blessing, a bracha over what you're about to eat, even if you're not thinking, well, God did this, think about the process to get that apple to your house. You did nothing but buy it, right? You didn't plant the tree. You didn't harvest the apple. You didn't box the apple and put it on the truck. You didn't drive the truck. You didn't unload the truck. You didn't unload the apple at the grocery store, right? So and that's just an apple, right? It's an apple. But then you think of other things that are much, greater and much more complex. That's a moment for gratitude, and that's what the blessings are. This moment to make us stop and say, yeah, I didn't make this apple. And whether or not you believe that God made the apple, it still took a lot to get you that apple, short of you having an apple tree in your backyard. And even then, you didn't, maybe you planted the tree, but you didn't create the seed, right? You didn't make the rainfall. You didn't make the soil, So it's just take this moment and say, yeah, I'm awfully lucky to be able to eat this apple, and then eat it, right? Or whatever. It's just, and that's what separates us from the animals. That and rules. And if you're a John Wick fan, you know where that line comes from.
Are we considering eating and ingestion the same?
Don't come at me with your science.
Well, I'm just wondering because if there's medications taken by mouth that have hormones that have been taken from pigs or
Okay.
anything from shrimp or anything like that,
Right.
you are ingesting it by mouth,
Yes.
therefore
Yes.
somewhat eating it.
Yes.
That fall.
To be honest with you, the rabbis, not the rabbis, the people in the Torah would not have known about that kind of medication, right? However, we do have medicines that require, that are made from, I'm trying to think, what is it? Glucosamine, right? Is often made out of shellfish. Am I right? Am I doctors, nurse, anybody?
I was thinking armored thyroid. I think that has pig hormones.
It's just big thyroid,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what it is.
And it's a medicine, right? So the rabbis give us this, there's a concept in Judaism called pikuach nefesh, which means, taking care of the soul, which means that anything short of murder, or the three big sins are murder, rape, and idolatry. So anything short of that, pikuach nefesh pushes it aside. What that means is, if you absolutely have to take this medicine, and this medicine is made from pig thyroid, and that's the only way it is, you take the medicine. And that's one. The other one is that you're not eating the medicine, you're taking it. So that might be your question of ingestion, right? You're not sitting down with a plate full of pills and going, "Oh, Nelly, yeah." But the rabbis say that, it's the idea that on Shabbat, right? Because one of the questions that I get asked is, what happens, Rabbi? You're not supposed to do this, this, and this on Shabbat, but what happens if you get sick? You pick up the phone and call the ambulance, or you get in your car and you go to the hospital. Well, isn't that violating Shabbat? Well, technically, yes, but human life is precious, and anything to preserve that overrides any of the biblical commandments, which is if you go to Brooklyn, they have an ambulance service that runs on Shabbat, and it is run by Hasidic men. And now there's one that's run by Hasidic women, right? On Shabbat, on the high holidays, these men and women are going back and forth to the hospital. And the point is that they're saving a life, which is the highest level that you can do for someone. And so the laws get pushed aside, especially if they will stand in the way of saving someone's life. So the medicine, I know I always get the question about, and I don't know if they still do it, when they do heart valve replacement, it used to come from a pig. And I had a number of very, very traditional, Jews ask me about that because they had to have the procedure. I'm like, yes, you're fine, but we're not allowed to eat pork. Like, you're not eating it. Well, excuse me, but it's going to be inside me. I'm like, well, yeah, but you're not going to digest it. You're not eating it as a sandwich. The doctor's not going to come and say, here's the pig valve. Now make sure you swallow it and it goes down the left side of your throat because we got to get it to the heart so that it attaches. No. Anything that will save your life is 100% legitimate, right? People I used to yell at people in one of my congregations because they would stop taking their medicine on Yom Kippur because you're supposed to fast, and they needed to take it with food. And I would get them, I'm like, Nudnik, what's going on? Well, I can't eat today and I can't take my medicine. Take your medicine, but I have to eat. Okay, what do you usually have with your medicine? I usually eat breakfast. Okay, do you need to have a full breakfast? No, just a little something. I said, okay, so have a couple of pieces of toast and take your medicine. And you're still fasting. right? Because the toast is the medicine with your medicine, right? Because you know you cannot throw your health away to fulfill a mitzvah. That is just ridiculous. You know, everybody likes to, the teenagers, when I teach them, always asking, we're talking about, you know, what would you do? What could you do? How far could you go before, you know, you had to just say, all right, I'm not going to do this, you know, kill me, right? If God forbid something happened, right? So they always want to know, Rabbi, what happens if somebody came up to you with a gun and they were going to kill you, and they said, we won't kill you if you eat a ham and cheese sandwich on white bread, and it's Yom Kippur. What would you do? I said, I would ask for mustard, and then I would eat it, right? Because there's nothing compelling me to become a martyr over a ham and cheese sandwich. Now, if somebody came up to me and said, if you don't bow down to this God, I'm going to kill you. Well, you know, go ahead, right? Because it's not worth it. That, you know, or if you kill this person or I'm going to kill you. It doesn't work that way, right? We take it. We take the hit, as it were. Now you came back. I have to start all over again.
No, you really don't.
I think the reason the medicine works and the heart valves work actually underlines that we're so physiologically similar to pigs that, like, we should actually have more respect for them, because our bodies are that compatible. You know, their hormone is the same as ours.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when in the laws of kashrut, when they come out and they say, you know, these are the animals that you're not going to eat. The camel, the hyrax, the hare, HARE, and the swine are listed together, right? The swine isn't pulled out at that point, simply because all four of those animals give the appearance of being kosher, either on the outside or by something they do. For example, the camel chews its cud. It has multiple stomachs, but it does not have a true split hoof. The hoof is split at the top, but at the bottom, it becomes solid like a horse's. The rabbit or the hare looks like it's, you know, like cud chewing animals are always chewing because they're swallowing and bringing it back up, right? A rabbit looks like that, but that's just because it's chewing everything. It doesn't have a multiple stomach, right? The pig has true cloven hooves. And you would look at it on the outside and say, of course, well, it's got cloven hooves, it's got to be, but it only has one stomach. So the Torah says, be careful of these things that on first glance may be kosher, but upon deeper examination, you find out that they're not. Yeah. All right. Page 282. Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol la'teit gedula liotzer b'reshit shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adam shelo sam chelkeinu kahem v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam va'anachnu purim umishtachavim umodim Lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu noteh shamayim v'yoser haaretz u'moshav yikaro b'shamayim imal u'shlinatu zo v'govhei meromi u'Eloheinu einod emet malkeinu efesu lato Kakatu b'torato yadata hayom v'hashevota elevavecha ki Adonai hu Elohim b'shamayim imal v'al haaretz mitachat eino. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו echad. This week we observed the following yard sites: Carol Klein Levin, Mitch Klein's sister; Ellis Clay Ambergy Jr., Judy Lundy's brother; Helen Bernstein, relative of Manny Berinsky; Albert Kaplan, Pauline's uncle; Seymour Kenneth Frieden, husband of Lillian, father of Nick and Josh; Jerome Hayflick, Sally's husband, father of Ralph, Faith, and Nancy; Rochelle Hyman, Pauline's cousin; Walter H. Lewis Sr., grandfather of Walter H. Lewis III; Harvey Shapiro, Billy Glick's sister Barbara's husband; Gussie Weisberg, Art's mother, Joan's mother-in-law; Daniel B. Bertman, Ethel Levine's brother-in-law, married to her sister Charlotte, great uncle of Regina Levine; Rebecca Jurin, great grandmother of Nathan; Marshall Levin, Vicky's husband; Abe Schiff, Mary Cantor's brother, Rena Stern's uncle; Ray D. Glick, David and Billy's aunt; Dorothy Schnitt, Sid's wife, mother of Lainey, Ronnie, and Jerry; George Strauss, related to Harold. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May their memories be a blessing to us all, and may they always rest in peace. Mourner's Kaddish is found on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach yuruteh v'yamlik malchuteh, v'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayeh d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach l'olam olamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudisha b'richu. Le'elam min kol birchata b'shirata, tushbachata b'nechamata, v'amiram ba'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom yibromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. All right, friends, Shabbat shalom and good Shabbos.
Shabbat shalom and good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
I love it when they're here. Okay, a couple of quick announcements before we close out. Services tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And we have the reading of the names tomorrow as well. So please come by and support your synagogue and pay your respects to those who lost their lives during the Shoah. Monday night, we're going to have deep dive into Genesis at 6:30. Tuesday night is a board meeting at 6 p.m. Wednesday night on Zoom.
Don and I are rekindling our leadership of the Yiddish choir.
Right in there.
Yiddish choir, live here in the synagogue. Wednesday night,
So
7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. If that's not a sign that the Messiah is coming, I don't know what is. It's the best Yiddish choir from coast to coast. It's the choir with the most.
and thanks to David Johnson for giving us a break.
All righty. That's Wednesday. Nothing on Thursday. Friday, we're back. But it's a big weekend. Huge weekend. Huge. Because Cantor Beth is going to be here with us next weekend. So Friday night services, always something special. Shabbat morning services, please come and be with us. Plenty of surprises. Then Sunday, it is Cantor Beth and my desire that we're going to celebrate Earth Day and Israel's Independence Day, because that happens the following week. So lots going on that Sunday. So, but lots going on that whole weekend. So just come, bring a sleeping bag, stay overnight. You'll be here for Shabbat services. Just be here. Just come. We're open. We want people here. It's so great having people here. And if only the camera would work today. then you would have been able to see everybody. But trust me, there are people here, not just, you are not hearing the voices in my head as well. So, but yeah.
Don't believe him.
We're only the voices in his head.
I've got a mixed choir in there. But lots going on. Please join us for as much as you can. It's open. Judaism is about being with community. And so come back. Let's have the community. Let's get it started. Let's get it rolling again. And I think that's it. Coming up a little under 6 weeks, Shavuot, which will always be fun. But yeah, that's it. So, all right, let's close out with Ein Keloheinu and a little bit of Kiddush. Ein Keloheinu. Oh, top. I'm sorry, page 322. I know the words. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadoneinu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Mi Eloheinu, Mi Chadoneinu, Mi Chemalkeinu, Mi Chamoshienu. No del Eloheinu, no del Adoneinu, no del Malkeinu, no del Moshienu. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adoneinu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adoneinu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shektiru Avotenu, Lefanecha Ketoret Asamim. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? You were right there. Yeah, but I don't need you. I have to say I don't like you, but I just don't need you right now. There you are.
Yeah, we're here.
Oh, you heard the voice? Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. זכור יום השבת לקדשו 6 ימים תעבוד ועשית כל מלאכתך ויום השביעי שבת לאדוני אלוהיך לא תעשה כל מלאכה אתה ובנך וביתך עבדך ומתך ובהמתך וגרך אשר בישעריך כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ את הים ואת כל אשר בם וינח ביום השביעי על כן ברך אדוני את יום השבת ויקדשהו סברי ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן. It was a good week for Kedem grape juice.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, we got somebody saying hello to us on the intertubes. And it's Mom. Shabbat Shalom to all and hope you all have a peaceful weekend and a good week ahead from Rabbi's mom and Cliff. Well, thank you, Rabbi's mom and Cliff. No, thank you, Mom and Cliff. All right, friends, we are open. There's lots going on. Please join us. Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos, and please be careful out there.